And welcome to PM Express tonight. We're talking about something that has been simmering below the surface. You remember the start of the Ukraine war, there was a major conversation about what do we do with many of our students who are in Ukraine studying mainly for a medical certificate, a medical studies there. They study medicine. They want to become doctors. Apparently, Ukraine is a very good destination, attracts a lot of people from all over the world for training in medicine. And then the conversation about, so what do we do with them? Do we get them into this country, or do we find ways for them to continue their education elsewhere? It appears now that there's some of our students who were in Ukraine or still in Ukraine possibly appear to be in some form of a dilemma because of the processes of integrating them locally, but also what is happening in Ukraine, and because of the war there, and how the Ukrainians are adapting to training their doctors nowadays. So of course, the Medical and Dental Council, they regulate the field when it comes to Ghana. They have their own rules and standards, and they have said very categorically that they cannot recognize Ghanaian doctors training the war hit Ukraine. There's a fundamental reason why. Yes, we acknowledge that there's a war, but this is a matter of life and death if you are certified. And so we need to be sure, the Mental and Dental Council appears to be saying, that your training meets our standards, and that we can trust that once you graduate and you get into the consulting room, you're not putting lives at risk. We know that what we know from the council, that the reason for their current decision is that the Ukrainians, because of the war, have had to move some of the tuition, the teaching, online. So you're training students to become doctors. War has made it impossible to have all these students in the classroom, and so they moved it online. Can you really train a doctor online? It's a fundamental question. And we'll ask the Dental and Medical Council. The Dental and Medical Council, that is one of the fundamental reasons why they've changed it. But the world has moved on, right? People are now doing surgeries virtually through the power of AI and robotics. I've watched a video before when people, surgeons in one country can control a robotic arm elsewhere and still conduct a surgery remotely. It's actually happening. So what is difficult about teaching medicine online? And why can that be accepted here? We'll get into that when we talk to the Dental Medical Council. But some work has happened in an attempt to try and help our students who were in Ukraine. So government in May established this 13-member committee to come up with some guidelines to try and absorb the Ghanaians who were caught in the crossfire in Ukraine. Now, we know that they've received several requests from these students. Then in September, an assessment was done, and those we understand who did not get in or did not write that, the door is shut to you effectively. Is there a means back? Will they open the door again for this pre-entry exam to happen? We'll get clarity for you. Many of you are affected by this. The students themselves are agitating, right? They have a student union council, which is not happy with what the Dental Medical Council had said. The council took the decision, they say, without recourse to the effects on the parents and the students. And they also they believe have not appreciated enough the challenges they are facing in Ukraine, and that the online is being organized for those who cannot physically make it into Ukraine because of the invasion. Many of them fled, remember, to neighboring countries. And I found this interesting, something that we haven't picked up on properly before, that actually the government had secured some form of arrangement with the Caribbean island of Grenada to train our students, give them scholarships, 200 Ghanaian medical students to train them. Those who may have been affected in the Ukraine thing. An MOU had been signed with them. And also the scholarship packages will also range from 50% to 100% funding by the awarding institution. So the government is trying to do something. Is the Dental and Medical Council a a hindrance to accepting these students into this country? We will get into that conversation here on PMS. Thankfully, the registrar, it's the head of the institutions is with me in the studio. We'll get to talk about that pretty shortly. And then we'll hear from some of the students themselves who possibly would also ask a few questions to clarify what it is and how they can get in if they missed this pre-entry examination. Please stay with me. After the break, we'll get into the details. In the studio with me tonight is Dr. Divine Banyubala. He is the registrar of the Medical and Dental Council. There's so many things you want to talk to him about in addition to the main focus tonight, which is the students' matter in Ukraine. When we talk about Medical and Dental Council, the medical profession, they are the regulators, correct? They ensure standards, etc., etc. So if your doctor did something you didn't like, that's the place to go. True?
That's absolutely the case.
We don't engage them enough. So let's engage them tonight. I know many of you have had issues with doctors and etc., and you're wondering, so where do I go? Okay, that's the man there. He's in the studio with me. We'll talk to him about that the tail end in the second half of the program. For now, though, we're looking at the current plight of the Ghanaian student who, for no fault of theirs, had been affected by the Ukraine war, and they were in there studying medicine when this happened. Abdul Rahman Dauda is head of integration, NUCS Ukraine, and joins us via Zoom now. Prince Damso Tanaka is the general secretary, NUCS Ukraine. They also join me via Zoom. Abdul Rahman and Prince, thank you very much. Prince, let me quickly get a sense from both of you. How many Ghanaian students in all? I mean, now we should have a clear picture. How many Ghanaian students in all were studying in Ukraine before the war?
So per our documents, the one we gathered so far, there were about 1,000. But yes, it's not everybody that we have been able to reach out to due to, the spread of people across Europe since the beginning of the invasion.
Okay. And Abdul Rahman, are all these 1,000 medical students in Ukraine, are they all out of Ukraine now? Or some are still been left behind in Ukraine?
Well, from the information we've gathered, all students have left, but some are still going back and forth. Some are going for their, documents, and some also have some, things to sort with their school. And of course, the offline classes is ongoing because the war is concentrated in the south. So some people are also going. So right now, we are not, keeping counts of who is in and who is out.
Okay. Now, two quick things, Prince. How many of that number managed to get back into Ghana?
I think as at before the exams, the pre-assessment exams took place, the total number of registered people were about 160 thereabout.
Okay, 160, those who prefer to return to Ghana.
Exactly.
Okay. Is it?
No, I think not those who prefer, but because those who had, all their staff intact to be able to, take part.
To take part, you mean return to Ghana and continue their education?
Definitely, because it's not just about returning. It's about the returning of it, but because some too, you need to show some proof, and then like a transcript, and then there's some of them, their schools were not issuing out transcripts. So in that case, they cannot sit up for the exams.
Okay. So that is, okay, so those who had all that was required to get into Ghana have the evidence that will qualify them to write the pre-entry exams. They are what? You said 100 and what?
160 that registered.
Okay, 160.
But
okay.
Per investigations, about 101 that, came to write the exams on the D-Day.
All right, on the exam on the D-Day. Okay. And Abdul Rahman, for those of you, are you, the two of you, did you manage to get back to write exams, or are you done with school? What is your status? Abdul Rahman?
Okay, so I'm part of the students who recently graduated.
Okay, so you've graduated from the Ukrainian medical school.
That is correct.
Okay. Now I was coming to that. Did you do part of your course online?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now the Dental Medical Council said yesterday that will not meet our local standards, and so you cannot practice here. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, we have been listening to the interviews that has ensued so far, so good, and we have done some little, analysis of the communique and all that. And what we've come to realize and understand is that, globally, there's a publication by WHO that about 2.6 million people die as a result of medical errors, and as well, medical error is the third leading cause of death, especially in the United States. Third to cancer and then heart diseases and all that. And moreover, you also, stated categorically that you have witnessed a situation where there's a virtual surgery being done, from one country to the other when the surgeon is not physically there. Also, we have checked all reliable sources, and there is no literature that shows that there is adverse effects when students actually go virtually to do their training. So, so we want to actually find from the MDC boss the reasons for their decisions today, so far.
I see. He's here with me, so I will address those details. Dr. Divine, so those are the concerns there. First of all, explain to me in great depth, as I said earlier, if you graduated from a school in Ukraine for medicine, are you automatically disqualified from practicing in Ghana, and why?
Thank you very much, Evans, and thanks a lot for the comment from the two students. The first thing is to say that the unfortunate situation in Ukraine is a tragedy that the entire world is struggling to respond to. Mm-hmm. And in the context of war is a disruptive event which puts lives, livelihoods, and futures at risk. So we sympathize with all persons directly and indirectly impacted by the tragic situation in the Ukraine. The second point to be made is that we should not make it difficult for a state to be responsive to the needs of its citizens. And I make this point with great deal of sensitivity and reluctance. Now, the Medical and Dental Council has been alive to its statutory obligations. And as far back as 2017, we've had issues with training from certain areas of the world, largely Eastern Europe and China.
Okay.
The responsible thing with it was to go with the lawmakers because they themselves had having constituents raising concerns. And our findings have led to a number of policy decisions to better the conditions of training in those countries, but also improve and expand on our local training opportunities so that we will reduce the need for our compatriots to make that difficult journey. Because of the evidence we have, in 2017, I led the team to the Ukraine. And we found, as a matter of exactitude, that there were 941 medical and dental students at different levels of their training.
Ghanaian medical
Ghanaian medical, across various medical universities.
In Ukraine?
In Ukraine.
Okay. So this is obviously is a hot spot.
Yes. So we engaged, we visited 7 medical universities and had a full day's debriefing engagement with the Deputy Minister of Education and Science of the Ukraine. In fact, all the universities we visited, we met the vice chancellors and all the deans, and we presented to them our serious concerns. Now, this conversation is not about that.
Okay.
I set that backdrop to explain to you that, being aware that we had a large number of Ghanaians there.
Well, first of all, if you may, what were the concerns that you established in 2017? Just to give us a background before we come into
the concerns were that, first, the admission criteria were completely unacceptable anywhere in the world. In fact, students were being recruited from the malls. People were taken without the requisite background, to the extent that even there was no authentication of certificates. And one of the cases, my former boss, the immediate past registrar, Dr. Atupi, led the other team to China. And this was with ministers and deputy ministers and parliamentary select committee leadership.
Okay.
Even in China, some of them said when they see aggregate F, because in China they have G and H, they think it's a pass.
You're kidding me.
I don't want to reduce
medical institutions.
I'm just telling you
the facts as you found it.
The facts, and I can share that finding led to a number of policy decisions. And so these are findings of fact. People didn't have the requisite background. People have done carpentry, the best grade is D7, and then they have gone and they have come back as doctors. People have done literature in English without any pre-med. So this led to the policy on the training of foreign medical and dental students in foreign jurisdictions, Ghanaian medical and dental students in foreign jurisdictions.
That background you've just given is such a powerful background, so we appreciate why we are where we are. That carpentry graduates travel and get a medical degree and come back and they are doctors in Ghana.
Absolutely. And we specifically went, and that is why we don't want this to be that doctors trained from Ukraine are not wanted. That is not a fair reflection of, first, what the notice conveys, and second, what the position of the Medical and Dental Council is. That team, we went with us, one of the deans of the medical schools at the time, actually trained in Kharkov or Kharkiv, depending upon whether you are using Ukrainian or Russian language, to show to them that in the past, the quality we were getting from there, we are no longer getting that quality.
Okay.
And as a good partner, it's important we give them a feedback so that our people are not being shortchanged for less than adequate medical education at a huge commercial cost. So what then happened is that there are agents recruiting medical students from this country from shopping malls elsewhere.
Shopping mall?
I am telling you as a matter of fact.
As in somebody will stand at the mall and simply say, I can get you into medical school somewhere, and people sign up and take them.
I tell you, and the students who connected, if they'll be honest with you, they will confirm that.
Wow, without any proper requisite background.
Yes.
Whether the person has done science or whatever it is, the person travels and he's admitted into the school.
That is so.
Interesting.
Now, because we had this background information, the war broke out on the 24th of February.
But that's very interesting. People were making money, so there's a whole syndicate.
So the first year of fees, actually, we found out that the first year of fees, so the medicine traditional program is 6 years. So the first year of fees are paid to the agent. Then they also have agents with hostels. It's a whole business they're making out of our people. And to make matters worse, the training was poor. In fact, the training was grossly inadequate. And to put it mildly, it was not fit for purpose. A lot of our students, even though they were training on campus, were not getting any clinical experience. There were issues about language, issues about racism, issues about not touching patients and all that. And they finished medical school, they haven't even seen a pregnant woman deliver before. See, but this is not the issue. I just wanted to set the context to let you know that.
Very good background.
Aware of this, we knew we had large numbers. The war broke out on the 24th of February, Evans. It was the council. We called some of the deans on the 25th of February.
Because of
because of the knowledge we have.
Yeah.
And said, can you please begin to have a conversation amongst yourselves? What are your university rules like? Because if this war that has broken does not terminate within a month or two and becomes so disruptive, and our people move, there will be the question, what can we do as a state to ease some of the suffering? Then we found out from them that just the nature of medicine is context specific and tailored. So they don't have rules for midstream transfer of medical students. Check with all our medical universities. Then this engagement went forward, and the government showed leadership. And I want to put it on record. When we went to Ukraine and China, majority of the students, they are from India, Nigeria, and Ghana.
3 countries.
Most of the students are from these three
Three
countries.
countries.
We instituted here, we are the only country, when this war broke out, which said, what can we do to help those students who were displaced? The others simply said, oh, they have moved their lectures online. That is not a standard way of training doctors. Doctor training is apprenticeship. And therefore, we are not recognizing them. I'm quite sure, because you are very effective with your research, and I saw the intro to this program, that you would have picked that on 17th of June, the Nigerian Medical Council issued their directive. Now, these conversations culminated in a larger conversation, led a critical influence from the government, led by the Presidential Advisor on Health. Then the committee then got set up by the end of March, because we now realized this war was not ending anytime soon, to begin to now see, because, so we're now shocked. We now knew the difficulties within our system to admit students. So it became obvious that unless the Medical and Dental Council came in, and then the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission came in, it would be difficult for us to find our way.
Yeah.
That is what led to the setting up of the special committee chaired by the Presidential Advisor on Health. So we started meetings effectively from April. In fact, I don't have his permission to say it, but Dr. Nsia Sari, on his own, at his own expense, traveled to Europe to engage with some of these displaced medical and dental students. Now, let me just make the point here. It's not only medical and dental students, the Ghanaians who got displaced were not only studying medicine and dentistry, right?
Yeah.
Which other professional course have you heard have tried to do something to help those who have been displaced?
To be fair, only the medical students.
That's why I started off by saying that do not make it difficult for people to do the right thing. It's unfair. But as a professional regulator, we are alive to our duties.
So in their case, what happened? What was the directive?
So, Nigeria,
No, in Ghana.
In Ghana. So the committee met, and we determined that first, you need to establish that this person was actually a medical student. The university they were in, whether they were actually attending, whether they had any transcripts to prove, whether, specific documents.
Yeah.
So the responsibility there, remember that this engages 3 ministries: health, education,
and foreign affairs.
So the committee has this representation. And we brought on board all the deans of the 7 medical universities.
In Ukraine?
No.
In Ghana, okay.
the 5 public and 2 private. Because it was an all hands on deck approach
to help the students.
To help the students.
Okay.
So the committee determined that these documents, this information, developed template, and our colleagues, Professor Salifo and his team at GTEC, did a fantastic job. So the first deadline for them to submit,
for the students to
submit the documents to show proof that they were actually studying medicine was 30th of June.
Okay.
At the end of 30th of June, we had less than 50. So the chairman of the committee, Dr. Nsia Sari, said, look, we won't have achieved our object. We want to see and be able to help as many that are willing and are eligible. So the deadline was moved to 31st of July. 31st of July, we had less than 100 students who had met the eligibility criteria. So the deadline was moved to 8th as the final deadline.
8th of
August. Now, GTEC, we had an international conference, and it's part of the conversations that we're having. We have started, once we got that, we started taking a number of regulatory actions to increase access to training and to improve upon the curriculum to reflect the changing needs of the Ghanaian. So, 31st of August, we ended our international conference that day, and I hosted an in-person meeting with the technical committee. Then GTEC presented to us the eligible number of students for us to do what we call pre-placement assessment.
How many were they?
151 at the time, on the 31st. So I had just about 2 weeks to deliver an exam, pre-placement assessment, to this 151. We're then supposed to close, so we had to design a form, open the portal. Remember that this 151 were eligible, but they may be willing to take advantage or they may not. So we had to develop this. And
so they can apply.
So that they can apply. We're supposed to close the form nominations on the 9th, the Friday, the 9th of September. I'm not sure whether it's 10th or 9th, but that Friday. But by the close of that Friday, we had about 98 or something.
Out of the 150 plus.
Out of the 150. So we left the portal open.
In case people want to still join.
To give them the opportunity for others, just in case they had internet problems or things like that. Eventually, we closed the portal on Tuesday. But we were supposed to deliver the exam on the Friday. We worked through night and day. I said, because we have been delivering the exam. And that is why the medical schools thought that we are the best place, and the committee thought that we are the best place entity to do that. By the close of that day, Tuesday, we got a final list from GTEC of 180. But we had programmed ourselves to deliver an exam for 200 people at least.
So 180.
So we were capable of delivering.
So they sat there for exams?
No. Then it turned out that 121 out of the 180 indicated they would want to continue their training in Ghana.
So they'll have to now
they will take the exam. By the time we got to Friday, the 16th of September, to start the exam, only 101 candidates showed up. So we have delivered the exam for the 101. The purpose of the exam was not to exclude people. It's to determine your knowledge and skills, competency levels, so that we can place you properly. Because the training regimes are completely different.
I understand what you mean. Yes. I mean, so that all of you are not going to come in and start, if your proficiency in a particular area.
You say 4th year.
Makes sense.
But they have to first assess you because the training here is different.
True.
So if you are not placed, at a level commensurate with your knowledge and competence skills level.
It is standard practice when you're changing
schools
from one country to the next to assess you. So if it's class 5, you can go to class 3. Some can go to, depending on what your ability is. So that's what you did.
So that's what
you replicated that with the medicine.
As you speak, the committee will meet soon and I mean very soon. We have done that, and we provided opportunity for them to indicate which is your first medical school of choice and the second.
Okay. So you placed them there.
So we have done our work. We have done the exams.
Effectively,
Yes.
Anybody who didn't avail themselves of the opportunity you
Yes.
offered, you really went extra
because the universities
Okay.
are starting their semester in September.
I get the picture.
So the whole idea
I get the
was at
picture.
the end of
So if you
June,
didn't take opportunity of that, the doors are shut for you.
The doors are shut.
So let me summarize. So what you've said is, in essence, is if you are graduated, like our guest
Yes.
has, from Ukraine right now,
Yes.
Based on the research you've done over the years, you cannot qualify to practice in Ghana.
No, so that is another thing.
Okay, so clarify that.
I need to clarify that.
Okay.
The notice was dated 23rd September.
Okay.
That's the reason why we did that. Remember, I told you Nigeria issued theirs. Now, Ukraine, a lot of their medical programs, they end in May. We're aware. So students were left with about 2 months or so to finish. Those candidates who finished are unaffected by this directive.
Those who finished before?
Yes, by June, those who finished.
Okay.
Because the academic year ends in May, June.
Okay. So if you finished in May, June,
yes,
you are not affected by this
So the
directive.
notice has no retrospective effect.
Okay. So post September.
So September 23rd going, we are not accepting.
So anybody who finished,
Because that's a new academic year.
graduates post the September.
Yeah. So yes,
You will not recognize what exactly? You will not recognize
their certificate.
the certificate.
Yes.
Their medical certificate.
The medical certificate will not be recognized.
What's the difference between them and those before?
No,
because
because
wouldn't they have all gone through the same
No, they
training?
have not gone through. The medical program is a 6-year program, and you end. The war came in February. The disruption actually started in the middle of March. So most of them had to then evacuate. So you were left with April and May to finish. So those ones finished their programs online. And we are saying that those who graduated from then, we accept their certificates.
Because?
Because they were done.
Okay, so they actually did the in-person.
Because they did the in-person for the 6 years.
Okay. And so you're saying that...
The last 2 months.
Okay, I get it.
So this is a very sensitive...
I get it. So what you're saying is that for post-September, because the war is now on...
remember, the new academic year started.
For the new academic year, because of the war, inability to now hold in-person...
Exactly.
Teaching and training, apprenticeship, etc.
Exactly.
So, okay, so that's what... Okay.
Now,
so that's
if you notice, in your own research, from what you reflected, I have no doubt that you reflected what the unions thought accurately.
Yes.
That Ukraine is offering offline.
Yes.
Do we get that import as a country?
Training medical students offline.
Offline. So why does Ukraine think that it is okay to offer online for Ghanaians? Are you suggesting to me that the persons that the Ukrainian are training people offline to take care of, they have better human value than the Ghanaians?
So it's possible that...
The point...
I'll ask them, but it's possible that for the Ghanaians who have fled, who are maybe in neighboring...
Otherwise, look,
they are unable to go back and do
let
that.
me help you. In other ways, online training is not an accepted professional training standard of training a doctor and a dentist. Okay. You see, you have to distinguish this from the role of science, innovation, and technology.
I'll come to that.
I saw you trying
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. I'll come to that. I'll let you. I'll let you address. I'll let you address that. I'll ask you that separately.
Yeah.
I mean, because innovation has gone and come. So I'll come to that. But let me. Now you've explained. I want to. But there's 2 other things I'll come to.
Yeah.
But let me bring in Abdul Rahman. So you are the graduate. You've now had the Dental and Medical Council clarify. The question to ask you is, when did you graduate?
So I graduated around the period he's stating. We are the May-June batch.
So you're not affected by this?
Right.
Okay, so that solves your problem, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't.
Okay, what else is there?
Okay, so because the problem is that, the communique from Ghana Medical and Dental Council came in late. And if you are listening carefully, you realize that the boss said that I mean, it was intentional. And that's kind of raised a question in our mind, because it looks like you realize that on the 23rd, on the 16th, when they organized that, I mean, government have made efforts and government have assured us of support and all that. And we appreciate everything that governments, the Akufo-Addo-led government have done. We appreciate it so much with a big heart and gratitude. Okay. But here is the case. The students who escaped from danger and war and all that, some of them have gotten to the neighboring countries, and there were certain tempting opportunities for them at that realm. So when Ghana said that they should come back for the integration, and given the, I mean, let's be honest, given the atmosphere in the country today, some of the students, well, it was a very difficult decision for some of them, because some of them are very young and all that. So when government asked them to come back, I mean, some decided to go, of course, even with some pressure from family and all that. But the others who returned, it seems that this communique is serving, I mean, as it's targeting them and it's spraying them, and that is a major source of concern,
I mean,
So
let's break it down. When they say those who returned, those who came back to Ghana to continue, attempt to continue here?
Yes, so yes, some people went back to try to, I mean, write the assessment to be, I mean, subsequently integrated to the respective medical schools.
In Ghana?
Yes, in Ghana.
Go on.
Other students remain abroad. I mean, mostly in Germany, Hungary, and all that, So the thing is that right now, this is an issue of war. And the students have not, I mean, prepared for this. Even European Union currently are suffering from energy crisis and all this, And one thing is that the students are also monitoring. We are monitoring because nobody thought in our wildest dream that Ukraine could be able to withstand the resistance against Russia. So now that they have withstand and they are gaining about 1,000 kilometers square of land and all that, we are still monitoring. We don't know because, I mean, you don't know what is going to happen next. And currently, reliably, there are about more than 30 million people. Life is still ongoing in Ukraine. It's not a full-blown war.
So, I mean, I want to really get to your point. Are you suggesting, first of all, let's come to the pre-entry exam that was carried out by the Inter-Medical Council in partnership with others. Are you suggesting that those who did not register or apply to write, some of them did not do so because they were still monitoring the situation in Ukraine because they believe it's a possibility that they can go back into Ukraine and continue there instead of coming to Ghana? Is that what you're saying?
Right,
is that what you're saying?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so that's the first one. So,
yes.
so that's the first one. I'll come to ask questions about it, but I want to clarify. Secondly, you say that that for those who have graduated, okay, like yourself in May, you accept that you are not affected, your certificate is valid, and you can come back to Ghana, and of course, you go to the licensing procedure and you're fine. You accept that is a fact?
Yep.
Okay. In other words, you are not affected by this.
That is correct.
Okay. And then there's a third point that you made that I'm also interested, which is that for those who, there are many, you're suggesting there are many medical students who are still spread across Europe. They are not necessarily in Ukraine, but school has reopened and they are now doing online because it's no fault of theirs. You are contesting the medical council's decision to say their teaching and training, because it's offline, cannot be recognized. You say you're not happy with that.
Yes, for many reasons.
Yeah, you've explained the reason, because they are outside and they are etc. etc. Okay, let's come back to the first one. The first point you made, which is that, well, there are people who didn't write the exam, entrance exam, because they are still monitoring the situation. If you listen to the Inter-Medical Council, won't you agree that they have really they've gone overboard, really stretched themselves really thin, just to accommodate all these possibilities, give you enough time to think through this, an opportunity to apply and rewrite, and anybody who didn't take this opportunity really didn't want to write the exam. You don't concede that?
Well, I mean, think, we all have agreed to that, the fact that, Ghana government and the MPC and all the stakeholders mentioned, you have done a very phenomenal job in bringing our students to study in Ghana. We will not dispute that fact.
That
Yeah,
the
Mr.
dental medical has been very fair to those students, and if they didn't come, they didn't come because of their own decision, not the fault of the Dental Medical Council.
Yes, but Mr. Evans, respectfully, we live in a free world, right? And everybody is allowed to make his own choice. But if you make your own choice, shouldn't make you a prey to, top tier level, government officials. And that is the point, That is the reason why the war is currently ongoing in Ukraine, because Ukraine is a sovereign country and they have the free choice to choose to join the European Union. And Putin said he's not going to allow that, So, that is where the issue is very critical.
Okay, I think I've had clarity. I'll come to you shortly. Let me hear from Prince Danso Tanaka. Prince, so you've had all the explanation. Which of the categories do you fall in?
So interestingly, the explanation was too focused on they granting the opportunity here and there. But I think when we sat on the meeting, of which he was absent, but he sent a representative, we made it clear that it's not everybody, especially those areas where the war was, intense, with the aspect of the southern side and the eastern side. It's not everybody that came out or can even get a transcript from their school. And then we asked of the way forward. And then no response was given. So in that case, those people cannot, even if you extend the deadline up to a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So finally, yeah. So in your case, which of the cases you fall in?
Yeah, I fall within the case I'm elaborating on.
Sorry?
Just the case I'm elaborating on.
Okay, so you also graduated?
No, I'm still in school.
In Ukraine?
Yeah.
Are you having in-person training?
Yeah. My school has started, so
so you are not doing online virtual training?
It's a mixed form.
Sorry, say again?
It's a mixed form or a combined form.
Okay, so but
I'm not there.
Okay, but if you are in
I have to join.
Sorry, if you are
now that I'm not there, I have to join the online. But when I get there, it's an in-person training with the access.
So when you say, I thought you said you are in Ukraine right now.
No, I said I will depart soon.
Okay.
But I'm not gone yet.
Okay, good. Okay. So so you are one of those if you will not be recognized because of the online. Okay. So I see one concern. Address that quickly for me before you come to your substantive rebuttal to them, which is that will there be an opportunity next year, for example, for another entrance exam?
No.
Okay.
Evans, simple no. It is a one-off humanitarian gesture. And the great thing about the leadership of this country is that the committee did not limit the opportunity to only Ghanaians. And I can confirm to you that those who took the pre-placement assessment, we had other nationals taking advantage.
But what about those who, for no fault, they could not get their transcripts?
No, I'm coming. That is a relationship between they and their university. You go into a contract, you pay your fees to a university to deliver you a certain product. You see, when somebody is trying to help you and you think it is my responsibility to get you a transcript.
But there's war, so it's possible that the place holding the transcript may have been bombed.
No, don't let us reduce.
It could be possible.
No, it's not about that.
Okay.
The facts are clear. To be able to help you, certain things are required. The committee set the criteria together with the NUC's president of the displaced students.
Okay.
The GTEC pre-qualified the people. My responsibility was to get those that have been pre-qualified and determined as eligible to examine them. I provided the opportunity. I was expecting 200. Eventually, I was sent 180.
Okay.
I prepared an examination for 180.
You make an important point. So even for the 200 who had all the documents required, some still decided not to come.
And that is right.
He made a point.
The gentleman.
Yes.
Now, you see, it is a free world. He must recognize that the professions of medicine and dentistry, these are honorable, noble learned professions, time honored. And because of that, we have certain norms and values and ethics. And underpinning all of it are issues of integrity and discipline. You cannot be indisciplined and be a good doctor. Now, if you make a choice, you cannot be free from the consequences of that choice. And we have to teach our young persons that there's always consequences attached to the choices you make. So you can't say that you are waiting to see. That is your choice to wait and see. And you think that the person that is trying to help you should hold on until you have been able. Meanwhile, others have made the choice to take advantage of the opportunity. So you can't be heard saying that Medical and Dental Council, and for that matter, this state, the GTEC should be waiting for you and clear you as and when you wish. No. Deadlines were given. You missed that. And as a doctor in training, we expect a certain desired conduct. Okay. And clearly persons like this are persons that do not reflect what adequate professional standards that we expect of a trainee doctor. If you are intending to take advantage of, let it be clear that I wish to take this. This is my other decision. And we are clear in our notice. Those who didn't take that, it is an advice that please then seek transfers to other neighboring countries where in-person training, which is in accordance with acceptable professional practice, can occur. But if you elect not to, and that you are waiting until time normalizes, that is also okay. When normal activities resume in Ukraine,
and you can go back and have
and you can go back and have,
and you can come back and prove
and
to
you can come
that
and prove to us
that
we are fine with that.
Okay, you admit. Okay, I mean, I want to move on to something else.
Yes.
Linked to the broader subject of medical practice. That you linked to something you said. As I said, one of the things I want to talk about is that you touched on at the beginning, the quality of the doctor in the consulting room. It's key for me. You've tracked your fantastic work you've done in touring the countries, trying to make sure that the product they're producing for you is good enough, fit for purpose locally. And the things you found shocking, right? But I applaud you that you did that. I mean, so I asked then, do we still have graduates from these countries still coming into Ghana and walking straight into the consulting room?
No, that will not happen under the current regulatory arrangements. In other words, once you are a foreign trained practitioner,
particularly in these countries where you had issues,
once you come back, you have to pass our licensure examination. And that is where the challenge, in fact, that was what generated, because a lot of them are unable to pass, understandably, because the training is not according to the standard that we wish. And so that test as a quality filter is there. That is one of the major tools we use to protect the Ghanaian public.
Interesting. So what it means is that even for the Ukrainian students who graduated in May, they have to come and write this.
Oh yeah, they must now demonstrate that you meet the minimum competencies that we require for you to be able to practice safely in Ghana. So those are the considerations. But Evans, it's important because for us, we have always determined that quality assurance and management processes are critical, especially in the area of medicine, where the science, innovation, and technology moves rather quickly. Until 2019 December, November, thereabout, we didn't know that we will have SARS-CoV-2. But we had SARS-CoV-1, but not COVID-2. And we needed to learn. At that point, we have what we call community ignorance. The entire scientific community did not have sufficient understanding of what was going to happen. One of the quality controls we have is instituting a continuous professional development requirement for all doctors who are registered with us. So even though you are a professor of medicine, we require that every year before you come to renew your license for the ensuing year, you must demonstrate to us that you have maintained the competencies.
How do you do that?
We do that by ensuring that you must do continuing professional development programs, accruing a certain minimum of credit points. Currently, it is set at 15.
As I'm going to other schools or...
So you go for, so there will be a continuing medical education program, maybe being organized by the college.
Who's going to pay for it?
No, you have to pay and gain that knowledge because you need it.
But I'm already practicing. Why should I be? I'm already. Isn't that the best certification of my job? Is my practice. If I'm a fantastic surgeon and I haven't gone to do what you're suggesting, and I'm doing great surgeries on the surgical ward, you're saying I come out for my license renewal. You say, well, last year you didn't go for any professional upgrade.
Unfortunately, that is what sets medicine apart. Because it is, remember, we are dealing with human lives. And we have to have the assurance as a professional regulator that you still maintain. And if there's new knowledge, you have acquired that knowledge.
Okay, so that is a requirement.
Yes.
Has it always been or something that was introduced?
So we have introduced that
since
for
when?
a number of, since I think 2008, thereabout.
Okay, I have a minute to wrap up, unfortunately. We need to have a proper conversation about it. But very finally, there's a point you wanted to address, that you're not allowing students who have done virtual learning for medicine to come in. But I was making the point earlier that telesurgery is now being done. I can sit in US and do a surgery in London through,
because
robotics.
Because you are a surgeon, and you have different tools, you will learn to use new tools. You must distinguish that from somebody learning to become a surgeon.
Okay, but my point is that virtual. You say you're not doing in person. Yes. I can sit somewhere and still do actual hands practicals remotely.
Surgeon first.
No, I'm talking about student. The student who can do that.
No, please.
Can also learn remotely and experience remotely through technology.
Evans, the conversation we are having.
Yeah.
Recognize that as a professional regulator, we are all potential patients.
True.
Okay, will you want your surgeon to be the one that got to practice his surgery using YouTube? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have you come back.
Oh, sure.
Let's talk properly about the medical practice and all the concerns that people have. Dr. Divine Banyubala is a registrar of the Medical and Dental Council. Prince joined us. Also, Abdul Rahman joined us. Very interesting. And they had some clarity, but they still have some concerns. I mean, the categorical statement have been made. Our question is, what would the students do? We'll see. Enjoy the rest of your evening.